whenever I do a value proposition or whenever you do one for yourself, you want to get, these are 4 essential traits of a strong value prop: specific, unique, desirable, memorable, and clear. I wish there was a cool acronym. I have tried to create a word for these letters.
No.
It doesn't work. Sudden, I don't know. But specific, and why that's, it seems like, well, of course it's specific. It's not, usually it's not when I hear it from people. It's like a very general kind of statement. You really want to get into, like, women over 50 who have trouble with, functional exercise. It's something to that.
Do you ever feel that you and your team is constantly pushing out content and just not getting the conversions that you're hoping for? The problem might just be your copy. In today's episode of the Scalable Marketing Machine podcast, I'm taking you behind the scenes to one of our accelerator masterminds. So as a part of the Scalable Marketing Machine Accelerator, you get to have a monthly mastermind session with an expert in an area of business or marketing. And this month, we are talking with Linda Melone, who's a certified conversion copywriter. She joins us to dive deep into crafting compelling value propositions and helping us to understand how to build copy that resonates deeply with our audiences and also boosts conversions. So Linda Melone is a former personal trainer turned email strategist. She has over 15 years of experience in health, wellness, and fitness industries, and she's the host of the High Conversions Health Marketer podcast. She is an awesome person. She's got some great strategies. So if you are needing some help in this area and feel like you maybe are missing the mark when it comes to copy that converts, this is the episode for you.
Hello, everyone. Hey, guys. How's it going? Hey, Linda. How are you?
Good. How are you, Victoria?
I'm so good. I'm so excited for this session. I'm going to kind of hand the mic over to you and let you introduce yourself and talk. We're going to be talking together now about unique selling points and really, how we use copy to kind of communicate that and sort of carve out our space in the world when it comes to brand, which is so important at any stage of business. So, Linda, why don't I turn the mic over? Why don't you talk a little bit about who you are and who you serve and what you're going to teach us today?
Yeah, I do have a slideshow presentation. I don't know if
that's perfect. Just make sure you should be able to share the screen. If you need permissions,
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Linda Melone. I'm a certified conversion copywriter and the founder of the CopyWorks. I have been a copywriter for about 5 years. Before that, I was a content writer, magazine writer for about 15 years, and a personal trainer. So I have a strong fitness background as well as the content. And Victoria, you and I talked about this a lot.
Yeah, I know. We loved it, which we need to have like a whole other session just on like fitness and marketing, basically.
Yeah. And so today I wanted to talk about what I feel is the foundational point of, and where you start with all of your copy, which is the value proposition. So I have this a little slideshow, and I will talk about it. So if somebody's just listening to the audio, they don't need the visuals, but it just helps a little bit to see it. So let me see.
Make sure you can pull it on it.
Should be able to. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. And I'm not a graphic artist, so I just did this really for, just to make it a little bit clearer. Sometimes if you're a visual learner, it's helpful. So how to craft a strong value proposition that connects with your ideal client. And I wanted to start with, well, I already told you who I am, so I can skip that part. What you're going to learn today is why your brand needs a value proposition, what makes a value proposition effective, and then steps to craft your own value prop. And so I wanted to also talk about what it is, because a lot of times value proposition gets confused with mission statement or your unique selling proposition. And what I wanted to differentiate is that your USP is about your competitive differentiation. its definition. Your mission statement is more about your purpose and your vision, where the value prop is really about the customer benefits and values. So it's different in that way. And you'll see when we get into all of it, how it is different. When I work with a new client, this is the first thing we do. If they don't have like 90, I was going to say 99%. I haven't actually measured out. Most of them don't have a value prop. And I say, what is your value prop? And they kind of like, well, that's a good question. And we kind of think it's this. You have to really nail this before you can get your copy to really bring that forth in all of your messaging. So I call it like your North Star. There's all different analogies you can use for it. I mean, people say, oh, it's the top of the waterfall where everything trickles down into it. What I do with the value proposition when I'm working with a client, if they don't have one, I really try to talk to them about, let's create one for you. I'm in the middle of doing that for a client right now. It's not easy to do because there's a lot of steps and it takes time. But what I do when I have that for a client and I'm writing copy for them, I keep going back to it. Like, okay, does this fit the value prop? If it doesn't, then I change it or do something else. But it's something that should be consistent in all your messaging. So the 4 things that you need to know to find your value prop. Number 1, you hear about this all the time, but target audience, identifying like the emotional triggers of your ideal customer. And this, I'll get into a little bit more because the research part of this is always what people kind of skip over because it's a pain. I have to talk to all these people. It is a pain because no one wants to talk on the phone or on a Zoom call unless they really have to, right? I mean, I can't tell you how much I dread that too. But if you have, like I always tell my clients, go see if you can get like a dozen people who've worked with you or could potentially work with you or are currently working with you. And if you have a dozen people and you get, if I'm lucky if I get 4 people on a call. So you have to really overreach. And there's a whole series of questions that you really want to dive into. The most important thing is you want to ask them to walk me through your day. What is it? Where does this challenge present itself in your life or in your business? And tell me all about it. And you get them into that whole you get into the emotional triggers, what makes them crazy and what do they need? And so then you get into, what's their problem and the need? You really have to get crystal clear on those pain points. It can't be vague. It can't be general. It has to be in the fitness world. Okay. I get up in the morning and I'm tired of laying on the bed trying to zip up my jeans, whatever it is, like you have to get really specific with it. And then the solution or benefit is like, how does your offer improve their life? And it has to be directly in line with what their pain point is. And then what makes your solution unique? And you have to really do this in one sentence. It could be a long sentence, but it should be summed up. And that's what I'm going to get into in a bit. So here's.
I just want to stop you for 1 second though, because I think this is so valuable and so important for anyone in the marketing position or anyone that's leading marketing to do. So some folks that are in the accelerator, like they've been in sales roles, like Wendy, I know in particular, that's on this call, has been in a sales role, that's been in a customer service role, who's had those conversations with customers. But the vast majority of marketing leaders that I interact with, or even founders or business owners, maybe it's something that you've done a long, long time ago to kind of be on the ground and interact with your actual customers and your actual prospects and understand their lives, their context, their objections, all those things. These conversations are so important because they are foundational in the language that we should be using. And so even if it's something you've done before a long, long time ago, or maybe you've never done it, I think at any point in business, it's very valuable to go through that framework you just laid out. That's very cool.
Yeah. And even if you are in that audience, like when I did fitness, and I was writing for a fitness audience and articles and I had a fitness course for a while for women over 50. And I thought, oh, I know what they want. It's different. You don't know because, for example, when I was doing personal training, and women, most of my clients were women, but some men, they wanted, flat abs, they wanted, toned arms. But when you get to 50 and over, a lot of women are saying, I get down on the floor with my grandkids and I really can't get back up. It's a function. And until you talk to them, you don't know. And if you are in that age group and you don't have those problems, you're not going to know unless you talk to them.
100%.
So even if you're in that group, so don't just assume a lot of things, because what happens when we assume. So, so this is like what you're, and I did this and I did it really quickly. So I apologize for it kind of being sloppy, but
no, it looks great. Looks great.
I'm showing a Venn diagram of, what your customer wants, what your customer really wants. Like maybe they're not even saying it. What you do really well, and then what your competition does really well. And you can see there's overlap in all that. So your customer's getting some of what they want from your competition, not a lot, and maybe even some of it from you, but your value proposition, what you offer, is what is unique that you can solve that your competition can't. So that's really important. And this is something I'm going to keep going back to this. And when I show the examples of some value props, I have it on the top of the screen. So we can go back to this, but whenever I do a value proposition or whenever you do one for yourself, you want to get, these are 4 essential traits of a strong value prop: specific, unique, desirable, memorable, and clear. I wish there was a cool acronym. I have tried to create a word for these letters. That doesn't work. Citem, I don't know. But specific, and why that's, it seems like, well, of course it's specific. It's not, usually it's not when I hear it from people. It's like a very general kind of statement. You really want to get into like, women over 50 who have trouble with, functional exercise. It's something to that aspect. And then unique, because you want to set yourself apart. That's the whole idea of doing a value prop. Because if you blend with everybody, then you're for nobody, right? Desirable, what is your audience? What do they really want? As I said in the other chart. And memorable, this one, when you think about, things like commercials that you remember and things that people tell you that you remember, they're usually kind of a story, or there's something in there that triggers your emotions. I mean, I can remember fitness presentations from years ago that stayed with me because it was memorable. So you want to be like that. There's this one instructor, he was teaching something and he showed a picture of 5 of his dogs in a rowboat. And he said, so you know what I'm going to talk about next? He goes, that's right, seated rows. Now, I probably saw that slide. It had to be 20 years ago, but it was so funny. And it was so, so, and then clear, making it super clear. And that's something that is easier said than done often. And so most of the mistakes, again, mistakes for creating your value prop is being too generic. You're trying to appeal to everyone. A lot of times we're afraid of niching down too small. And a lot of times that is exactly what we need to do, because you can always go back, but if you're too general, you're going to miss the people who really are for you. And then focusing on features instead of benefits. We hear this a lot, but in value props, that's usually what comes up. People will start talking about the features instead of what's in it for their customer. And then 3 is ignoring the competition. And I hear this a lot of times from people that they say, well, I don't really have a competitor. Even if it's the status quo, that's your competition. Even if it's pen and paper. I've worked with people who create apps. And when I ask, well, no one does what we do. Yeah, but people are using pen and paper to do what you're now going to help them with. So you have to understand that. And so to build your own, wow, that's bright, your own value proposition.
I see it like reflecting on me. Yes, that's a good one. Anyway.
So I went over this, so I'm not going to dig too much more into this, except to say research your audience's pain points is number 1. And I think the thing to really keep in mind is what you said, Victoria, is really just, you get into the specifics, you dig in, and people will tell you, like when you first start talking to them, they'll give you that surface information. Oh, well, I'm bothered because, and they'll say something very general. Okay, so here's an example in fitness. If I'd be starting to work with a new client, I'd say, well, what are you interested? Well, I want to lose weight. Okay. So, and why is that important? And you always ask like why, but you have to be careful not to get too annoying with the whys because people stuck, because it's kind of like, you have to be careful, but is it like, for me, it's like, is it for you that you want to do this? Is it because someone thinks, like, the worst thing you can ever do, and I found this out, is when people would give, they would give a gift certificate for personal training sessions for me to a relative. That is the worst thing in the world. You never, ever do that. I go into the house and the person is already angry with me and I don't even know who they are.
Right.
And it never lasts. It never lasts because they're pushing, it's not their decision. So you have to really get into.
But one thing that I also want to highlight here, and I don't know if you, what your take on this would be, but I feel like this is something, audience pain points is something that can shift and change. And it's something that we should come back to. So it's not like a one and done thing. So for example, leading up to the election, a lot of business owners I've been speaking with, always leading up to election, there's production dip. Like there is a lull because politically, it's changing a lot of like what people are thinking about, what they're worried about changes, right? Or there could be some natural disasters that are going on, or something very specific that's affecting like policy changes, or something that's affecting your audiences, like their pain points, like really what they're focused on in the moment. And so I think that as marketing leaders, we have to be agile and we have to stay connected to what's going on in our customers' lives and what's kind of on their minds in that moment. Because the more timely, now, maybe this doesn't apply so much to like permanent copy, like website copy, but more permanent copy, but definitely our more fluid copy, like our email copy, our subject lines, our our sales presentations, things like that. It may shift and change because the economy, the culture, things change, right? I think it's something that not a lot of people talk about.
And also once somebody achieves that initial goal, then their pain points are going to change. Absolutely. So maybe the person who came, to a train came to me and wanted to lose weight and they lost the weight. Now what are you going to do? So what's the next thing?
That's a really cool idea for this idea of like, upsells, right? So a lot of like some of our members here, they have an initial offer, and then the way that they're going to interact with like their accounts to get more of that lifetime value, they're going to have different pain points, right? Again, I think the fitness thing is a great example. It's like, well, even if someone loses the weight, well, now it may be like an energy issue, or it may be strength. Maybe they want to build strength. Maybe now they have their sights on doing a triathlon or running a marathon. Like maybe, right, that shifts and changes. And, how can we connect with them where they are at that moment in order to be able to solve their problems, right? As our relationship grows.
Yeah, exactly. And your value prop could change over time, like for your business. I'm in the process of rebranding my whole podcast because of this exact kind of thing. And so, defining your unique angle. This, I think, is the hardest. It's the hardest one to find if you're in a really saturated market, but it's not impossible. In fact, I love this part, like with my clients, because I have people come to me that it's like, well, I don't know how we differ. And soon as, I always use this example because it's really where people talk and say what they want. You go on Reddit, you look up the subject, that whatever it is that your client or, what you are you're looking for, like for me. So as a copywriter, what do people complain about? What are they unhappy about? I hired a copywriter and what happened, something. And so it gives you, it gives you that place to jump in and say, well, I could help with this. And that's something that you could put into your copy, into your value prop, but it's not just, Reddit. I go through a ton. But social media in general is really good. Reddit is better in some ways because it's anonymous and you have, it's good and it's bad. People are, it's really, it's awful. If you put on there. So anyway, but finding your unique angle is really crucial. And so the thing is to write, I mean, it sounds like, oh, I'm just going to write a bunch of them, but you do have to go through this because it takes a while. I gave the example of the client I'm working on right now. I'm almost at the point where I'm about to find their value prop. And am I using AI? Because people always ask that. I am, but it's not giving me anything unique, because that is the thing that I am trying to find for my client. And I found it through just brainstorming and putting down stuff that I think is crap. And then all of a sudden something will click and you'll be like, this is actually not bad. And it has to meet all these criteria. So I'm going to show you some examples. These are ones I'm using my own because I know how they evolve, but there's tons of them out there. But this will give you an idea of how to look for them. So here's the 5 criteria at the top that I mentioned earlier: specific, clear, unique, memorable, and desirable. So this was a company, hospitality tech company. They're family run. Their old website had a person looking at their phone, which was, first of all, stock photo, which was awful. And it looked just like, okay, it's your old tech company. It's family owned. They really wanted to emphasize the fact that we really take care of our guests. So the value prop I came up with that they loved: we take care of your tech so you can take care of your guests. And that says it all. High tech with old-fashioned attention and service for the hospitality industry. Is it specific? Yes. Is it clear? Yes. Unique? I think so. Memorable for this audience? I think so. And desirable? Absolutely. We are so stuck in getting caught in AI loops and phone relays and stuff that anything where because that's what people kept saying, is they are so on the ball. And there was part of the copy where I wrote something about our decisions aren't made in a boardroom. They're made, I think I said, around the dinner table. I thought that was a little too casual, but they said something like as a family or something. Yeah. And that resonated. And then this one was for an Australian company. I didn't show the whole thing because it's a long one and I couldn't. And a lot of it, they changed a lot of it, but this value prop, they did not. This is a franchise and it's for recovery. So P3 Recovery is the name of the company. It's not a gym, but you join and they have like ice baths and everything to help you recover from a really hard workout. So they get a lot of athletes. The owner is a former pro athlete. And he said, we get out of bed and we live this lifestyle. And I talked to their clients and customers, and it was all about having this greater purpose. Like, I don't just, I don't want a franchise so this was to sell their franchises. They said, I don't want a franchise just because I want a business. I mean, and this is what I feel is my purpose in life. So that had to come out. And so that's why the franchise for entrepreneurs driven by a greater purpose. Live better, be better. I didn't put that there. That was their writing, but and I don't know. It just seems that's too general. You see, that's what I mean by.
Yeah. No, but these are good to dig into these examples because, again, we want to see this in the wild. And also, I think these are part of the pieces where if you're having that interaction or having these conversations and you're trying to kind of test out some of these messaging, it is good to like bring into the wild and see how it resonates. Right.
Yeah.
Like, right. So that again, like and you can call it kind of like a elevator pitch or whatever, but it's like, how are we sort of explaining what we do in a pithy way that's going to make that connection and satisfy these requirements that you're mentioning here.
And one thing, I forgot to mention with this one, they, between the design, it wasn't just the copy, between the design and the copy, it boosted their conversion rate for their homepage by 44%, which is crazy. Yeah. And they were able to take out just the copy and measure that. And they said the copy alone boosted quality leads by 11%.
Yeah.
So that is
so really powerful. Yeah.
It's really powerful. And this is the last one, just to show you that this was a more recent client, and they actually showed me the Venn diagram, and they said, how are we, we need to have something that is, it was for the hospitality industry again. But it's where strategy meets support for the hospitality industry. And I forget what they had before. Grow revenue, delight customers. So it's about, targeting that that's their unique offer right there, strategy and support. So they wanted to emphasize that. They're very happy with it. And the thing is, when you have, like, you change the copy on your homepage or your website, it could take 6 months before you see a measurable difference. So this one, I don't know, but it's specific for the hospitality industry. It's clear where strategy meets support. I mean, there's a little bit of question there. I would say, well, what does that actually mean? But, that's intriguing enough that someone's going to, I think it's memorable, unique, and desirable.
And Linda, what I think is also interesting in these examples, especially in this last one and the other hospitality one, is like, are we really calling out our people in these statements, right? So sayings for hospitality industry, for calling out, for example, Allison, boutique owners or commercial property managers, right? Like really calling out our prospects by name. It's something that people shy away from because, again, we're in this mentality of we don't want to close off opportunities sometimes. So we don't want to, we don't want to exclude anyone that could possibly be a client or a customer. But the reality is that even, when we get more specific, we niche down, we call out our audience specifically, we actually get those better conversion rates. Because people see it and they like, this is for me, right? If someone's in the hospitality industry and they're deciding between a few different consulting groups, they're going to connect with the ones that are calling them out specifically, right?
Yeah. And also people will come to you even if they're not in your niche. I mean,
exactly. All the time.
I mean, I specialize in health and fitness, and I'm working with, hospitality industry. My current client now is an accounting firm.
Yes. Because the principles remain the same, but in the noise of the internet, you have to be specific.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I thought I'd put mine up here, sort of self-serving, but it also it took me a while to come up with this.
Yeah.
So I create conversion-focused copy for health and fitness brands, leveraging insider experience, because of all my insider experience from both sides of the industry. That's what differentiates me, because I've been a personal trainer. I wrote for magazines. I had a fitness course, and now I'm writing for the industry. So there's a huge difference when you talk, like I remember when I was writing articles for fitness publications, and I'd be interviewing these really top fitness people, PhDs, and they would say to me, I'm not worried about you misquoting me, because I know if there has to be something that gets filled in, you'll know how to say it. Like because they knew, they had the confidence in my background that I knew how to talk to the audience and what to say. And that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Because you as a brand, the customer, your clients felt understood by you. And that's the objective that we want for all of our brands, regardless of industry. We want our customers and clients to believe that our brand, right, our service, our product understands their specific needs. That's going to help to bridge that gap, right, of the pain points that they have and how you solve the problem and why you are uniquely positioned to solve the problem for them as opposed to your competitors.
Right. And that's why in fitness, when you have people that have lost like 100 pounds and they go on to become, they create courses because they know people are looking for that. They've been there. They can relate. That's why I always laugh when I see like a man trying to position himself as a menopause expert. It's like, you have no idea. I mean, just stop. Stop. Because it actually sort of angers me. It's like, you have some nerve just even thinking that you're gonna.
Do you have any idea? Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And this is just my contact info. Everything's really on Linktree. I also have, and this is where I'm not repurposing, I'm rebranding my whole podcast to really be more, so right now it's B2B marketing and copywriting. I'm not getting rid of anything I have, but I am honing down, especially for January with, the whole, I guess it's just a fresh start I'm looking for. And
it's a perfect opportunity. Well, I think that was super helpful. And I think it's something very important that we all should be thinking about. But I think we can open up for questions, but I do want to pull it back and ask, at the very basis of it, can you explain a little bit the difference between conversion copywriting and just like copywriting? Because, we have marketing leaders that are here that are going to be the one making this hire. And so I think it's really important to understand some of the principles behind copy, because again, you don't know the quality of people that you're getting when you go search out in the wide open, internet there. You want to make sure that you understand how to hire, what is the differentiation there? What are some of the standards you should be holding people to when you make this this decision to bring someone on for copy? So let's start with like basic. What's the difference between regular copy and conversion copy?
There's a lot of overlap, and people have even accused me of, oh, it's a bogus term. But here's the whole origin of it is Joanna Weave. She is the founder of the Copyworks, the copy hackers.
Yeah.
She's located in Canada. And so I studied under her. She used to work for all the big SaaS companies, and she established that word in 2011 when she was working for Intuit. And she called herself a conversion focused copywriter. And she goes, I just got so tired of just saying it. I said, I'm going to just be a conversion copywriter. So that's why some people say it was kind of bogus. But the biggest difference is that copywriting in general, if you're thinking of ads specifically in particular, they're for anybody. So you put an ad out there, direct response, however you want to, there's different types of ads, but they can attract anybody. You think of a hamburger ad, it's not targeting any specific audience. And so conversion copy takes into account where a person is in their decision-making process. So if you have an ad and you know about that product, that maybe you put it out on Facebook for your course, maybe, because I used to do that. And then that person knows already what you have. You don't want to take them to a long form sales page because it's like, look, I know I already want to hire you. And sometimes if you give them too much information after that point, they're going to be like, I don't need all this. I just want, where do I click so I can sign up? So you want to send them to a page that picks up that conversation from wherever they are. Most people are going to be in the pain aware stage. So, the unaware, they don't know, pain aware, solution aware, they know about you. So that would probably be more the Facebook ads kind of person, person comes to you. So it takes that into account where a general copywriting can be anybody. That's probably the biggest difference. Also that it's about making the sale, and it's about everything goes like, I think about when I'm writing copy for somebody, what's the end? I keep the end in mind. What do they want me to do? What do they want the person to do who's reading this? They want them to click this button. Okay, so now I have to find out, how am I going to get them, lead them to that? It's involved. I mean, I call myself certified because the same woman, Joanna, she offered a huge course. So it took me a year to get through. And you have to go through and write ads and copy for everything. I had to do Facebook ads. I had to do a long form sales page. And then it goes through her whole team and she certifies you. And there's a lot of talk about is certification bogus or not. And but I worked hard for that. And they said they had not given anyone that certification in 2 years. So that's why I tell people I'm certified. But for most people, it's like, you say when you're in the fitness business, I had my CSCS, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. No one knows who that is unless you're in the business. So,
right, exactly.
Right.
Well, one of the things that I think is important for someone that's positioning themselves as a conversion copywriter versus just like a copywriter is really, someone that you're bringing into your team that is willing to take ownership of the performance. Because oftentimes, someone will, yes, you can, anyone who speaks English can create copy, right? Anyone that can write can create copy. But the difference here is that copy going to communicate your brand, move people into action, right? When we're looking at hiring copywriters, we want to make sure that we have someone that is skilled in doing all of those things and is able to understand the principles behind how we use our words to affect an outcome. And oftentimes, I always say be very careful with folks that you just find on Fiverr or anyone just writing copy, especially for things like landing pages and for advertisements, because those are the points where, a lot of return on your investment is tied to, whether or not those things actually convert, right? And so, so I think that that's incredibly important. I want to open it up to questions. If anyone has any questions on how to infuse brand and copy or creating your unique selling point, your unique value proposition, Linda is here to dig into your specific cases. Yeah,
Hi, Linda. My name is Allison. I'm with Mid-Atlantic Packaging. We offer custom and stock bags, boxes. We offer packaging to a variety of different industries. Our biggest ones are boutiques and giftware and apparel. And my question for you is in terms of if you're visualizing a website, how soon or where do you plug in that value proposition? If you imagine you have your logo, your menu header, maybe a banner with the current promotion and like your top products, how soon in the hierarchy of that are you hitting them with the what makes you unique?
It depends on the niche. So with yours, it may not be something you put up front. Like I typically for a SaaS company, the value prop is often what's the headline. It has to make sense. So it could be, it's so hard to say, like I'd have to see the whole, everything that is going to be on this page. Like, what do you want to include? Usually, I mean, if it's something that's super strong and really separates you from everyone else, there's usually the heading, usually right up front. Once you get it and it's a strong one and it's really going to have people say, oh, this is, I need to buy from them because the other ones don't have this. I don't see a problem having it up front. I'm just thinking, when I think of value props for a tech company or something, it can be a little bit different. Like Apple doesn't typically have, Apple doesn't need a value prop. They're Apple.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting to consider is, especially in industries that are very kind of commoditized, like packaging, right? You're doing like bags and tissue. But I think that, you have gone through the work to say, like, what are some of the things that separate you, right? And I think Linda's spot on. It's so important for SaaS companies because, software is, it's you need to explain to people like what it is, right? A bag, people pretty much understand what a bag is, right? So those value propositions, as she said, is probably going to carry some different weight on those two circumstances. But I do think that, in your specific case, like it would be very beneficial to be able to extract some of those things that make Mid-Atlantic packaging so unique and put it front and center. But again, like Linda's point, right? It's like you do want the products to be the hero, right? But I would question, I would challenge you to say, like, how can you infuse the value prop with the product, like front and center? So
right.
We don't want that separation, right? So that's why I think, the value prop for products is not just like the values of the company. And you gave some really good examples, especially with that first one with the hospitality, but also infusing like what is the actual thing that you're selling. Because sometimes I think, and I would love your thoughts on this, Linda, is like this idea of like the value proposition, the values, the mission, the pillars, it can be like so esoteric, so kind of like not intangible, right? And what you're showing us today is really like, how do we map your pain point to how our solution, and it makes it very, very clear. So
Right.
what do you think if you find people that are struggling with like connecting the actual product and service to that like more like lofty vision for the company?
I mean, the first thought I had is to think about what is going to make them, what is the emotion that you want them to feel? Like, what is it about the packaging that is different than your competitors? What would you say?
For us, we offer that one-to-one design service. So being able to explain your vision and then have a real person to talk to understand like what is available to you, what works within your budget, what would align with your brand aesthetics and like their vision. That industry knowledge being available to them right up front so that they can be walked through that process is something that we care about deeply, and our customer service is one of the things that we're most like known for.
So that could be where you ingrain, like what I did with the hospitality one, we take care of your techs, you can take care of your guests. So maybe something along those lines, like, and it's hard without knowing, because like I said, I spend 4 weeks on just coming up with a single one.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that on the fly, but I think
Yeah,
infusing some of those things, like also I know, when you look at, again, that's why looking at the competitors and that Venn diagram that Linda put with the competitors and what you do well or whatever is a really interesting exercise to go through, because often, like for Mid-Atlantic, for example, I know that, your fulfillment times, right, are significantly shorter than your competitors. That, like currently, right, is not really communicated anywhere. And this is where, why I think, and why I wanted to bring Linda on, is just this idea of, bringing the brand to life in so many ways is what the copy is there for. But there are plenty of folks that really kind of do those things in separate realms. Like we kind of create the brand and the mission, the values, and then that gets like put in a bottom drawer. And then we hire the social media managers and the copywriters or whatever. And then those inflection points never come together. So what do you think are one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they are writing copy in general, Linda?
Well, I was going to mention too that it doesn't, your value prop doesn't even have to be something that's necessarily different, but something that your competitors aren't talking about. So there was that famous story about the beer, I forget the copywriter who was hired by Schlitz beer to, their sales were lagging. This is way back when. And I think John Caples, I think was who it was. So he went to the factories and he was, watching all the beer being made. And they were saying how we use this special, we use this way to clean our glass, whatever it was. It was something that John had never seen. He goes, what are you doing here? And he says, well, we sanitize and we go through this whole process. He goes, well, there's a selling point right there. He goes, but our competitors do it too. He says, yeah, but they're not talking about it. So he wove that into their copy, and Schlitz ended up being the number one beer, like out of everyone. So if you can look at what is your competition, maybe you're all doing this thing, but they're not talking about it. And you can make that. I mean, I see this all the time with ads. And my favorite thing, which no one has ever talked about, being in the food, I have a degree in nutrition, and you have like that, who is it? The Burger King has a quarter pounder. Quarter pound is 4 ounces. Okay. So if you take a 4-ounce burger and you cook it down, it's 3 ounces typically. That is no bigger than any burger, but they have called it a quarter pounder. Every time I hear that, it's like, whoever thought of that is a genius, because it sounds like it's no different than else. Yeah.
That is, you know what? I've never heard of that ever, but that is incredible, right? It's like, what are we extracting? And again, it's a lot of times those things that are just stick in people's minds.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, it doesn't, I love that. Yeah. 4 ounces, any burger that you buy at the grocery store that's prepackaged is going to be 4 ounces. That's the serving size for a burger.
Right.
It's nothing special, but it's because it's been highlighted in this way. And it's created this like emotion in our mind of like, we're really being taken care of because we're getting a whole.
It sounds huge.
What a value, right? What incredible value. So copy can do that. That's amazing. Copy can do such amazing things in the minds of our prospects.
Yeah. And that's when it helps also to talk to your customers, because a lot of times when you're in the business, you don't see it. And it takes somebody to come in from the outside to say, what are you doing here? And why, this is really cool. And you're like, oh, we do this all every day. Well, no one knows, and I don't know, maybe it's your customer support that there's something different. And how can you highlight that? Because I kept hearing for that hospitality brand, I kept hearing it over and over. It's like, these people are really, great. And now, especially, every time I try to contact a doctor or something, I have a simple question, you can't get through to anybody. And then you do, and they're like, it's just such a pain. And so anything that helps to cut any of the current challenges down would be welcome.
And I think it's also, and what we learned kind of through your presentation is sort of like, how can we take those simple things, because the uniqueness is a really important part of building this prop, right? The uniqueness. And, a lot of customers, when we're talking to our CEOs or whatever, and they're like, well, customer service is really important to us. Well, that's important to everyone, right? But what is it that is going to, how can we say that in a way that's going to connect, right? Like any doctor would say, like, patient care and patient education is important, but like, how many of them are actually doing it? So can you communicate that in a way that makes it tangible for the prospect to say, maybe Allison, like the other competitors that you analyze also does this like one-to-one design service, right? But maybe they're not saying anything about it. So you can sell that in any which way that you want. Like it's a brand consultation that you get. It's like, how are you packaging up what the thing is? And the words we use to describe these things build that value or that image in our prospects' minds. So that's
Yeah.
why it's such a powerful thing, and why, when we talk about conversion copywriting, and Linda, I'm sure you have a lot of experience in this area, in this arena, but when you're fiddling with these different value props, oftentimes it can be like the one change of one of the words or the word order that actually really turns on the floods on for the conversions. Like
Yeah.
it's so strange, like psychologically why that happens, right? But do you see that?
Yeah, the whole psychological behavioral psychology is a huge part of conversion copy. And it doesn't mean manipulation, because people immediately think, oh, you're manipulating. No, it's only manipulation if you're not delivering on what you're saying. So, it's not clickbait, but it's finding that. In fact, there's a book, I think, Using Behavioral Science in Marketing by Nancy Horahut. So I recommend this to everybody, because you can jump around. You don't have to read the whole thing, but it's all about, and it's won all kinds of awards, all about different ways to use behavioral psychology, like this, when you put like a time limit on, you have like certain parameters, you have to, we have 48-hour sale. I mean, those things do work.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly work on me.
Me too. And I think that's right. Urgency,
And
scarcity.
Scarcity, right.
She probably talks about that in the book, but these are very, very powerful tools. And listen, this is how we communicate through words, right? How we communicate. It's not really like anything. It's not the imagery and stuff like that. It's the words that we're using to kind of say, hey, this is a sale for, and especially if we're coming into, I mean, it doesn't apply to everyone, but for us with product-based businesses coming into the holidays, right? A lot of times we want to use these natural inflection points in the year where it's like, okay, holiday season or Black Friday or whatever, to lean into this natural point where it's going to make sense to utilize the scarcity or the urgency. Because if it's used in an inauthentic way, people can kind of sniff that out pretty quickly.
Especially now. Yeah. We're so used to that. But yeah.
Question.
Powerful.
So do you have a process on how you test the value prop to make sure it's like the most successful one?
That's part of my client's role. Like, I will give them a few to try. And it also depends on how it's going to be used. So if it's a landing page, like with the client that had that huge uptick in leads, it took them several months to measure the before and after. That's usually something that I can do, but it's more likely going to be happening on the client's end. But I will give suggestions on, hey, this is, you can try, you can survey your customers. You can do an email survey to get a quick response. I'd even put a poll up on LinkedIn. I've done that a few times. Just what would make you click this? But the only thing with LinkedIn is it's not your customers specifically. So
well, you can see zero in on people on their titles, but practically also, like, there are a lot of I think what Linda said spot on. It's like for a landing page or for homepage, you can do that A/B testing through your site. So you can say, okay, I'm going to get, I'll split it 50-50 of the website visitors. They're going to see one page, they're going to see another page, and your web developer can help you set up this test. And then you could see, especially when it's coming to, you want people to take certain actions, like book a sales call, book a threat check, right? In your case. Because again, it is incredibly difficult to just, like, if you want that feedback loop. And if you're just going to switch it over, a lot of like the user experience designers that I've worked with, it's very hard to strike a balance between, you have to go on with business as usual and also testing, because you don't want interruptions in things. But if you do give yourself a window of a couple, 2 or 3 weeks to do some messaging testing on landing pages or on home pages, you'll be able to get a better read on which one is more popular or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's easier to test, like with an email or something with a subject line, but you can't put a value prop really in a subject line, but you can ask. There's a lot, and there's usertesting.com that they used to, I don't know, I guess they're kind of expensive now, but that used to be what my go-to for my clients. But
Interesting.
User testing. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I think it was like $50 per person. You can have, this is actually someone who goes through your website and they record it. It's like a Hotjar, where they track your mouse and then they see where you're going. And then, but the person has to talk out loud as they're doing it to let you know what's going through their head. Like, okay, I'm over here and this is very confusing, or I don't know what this means by this.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know what, I haven't used that in a long time. So I don't know if it's still.
That's interesting. Actually, Wendy, the folks I connected you with for the UX upgrade, they, when I've worked with them in the past, that's part of their process is they would give it, they called it the 5-second test or whatever. They would show to like 5 or 6 people and have them give them only 5 seconds. And then they would do like a little research on like asking that person, okay, what did they like? What does this company do? What is the website like? For what's the first step you should take? Whatever. So because we have that, honestly, like now I think it's not even 5 seconds. I think it's 3 seconds we have to sort of capture someone's attention when they get into a website. So either using something like where you pay someone from like the what's it called?
Usertesting.com. Yeah.
Even though, expensive, but like $50 per person, whatever, you spend $100 or $200. But if it's going to unlock like real leads and conversions for you, I think it's a very well worth it investment.
I think it's more now, but I forgot about the 5-second test. That's another one. Yeah. And I used to have a business coach who would do that with us. We would start, like, we would evaluate different headline or different homepages for each of us. And so she would flash it up on the screen and everyone who was in the call would say, and she'd take it down and say, everybody write down what you think this person does. And so it's very similar to that. So that would actually be better for a value prop. Yeah.
And that's why I think what Linda, also what you mentioned is so important. You don't just, it's not like a one and done process. You're like, let's write a bunch of them, right? And maybe in different order, kind of capturing the essence of the unique selling point in different ways. And then you can put it out into the wild and you could say, you can test it yourself or have, an assistant or something go through trying to test it for you in the department. But I think, again, the bigger like 10,000 foot view of this whole thing is that copy is important. It's incredibly important. And it's not something that we can have as a kind of like anyone can do it. Any social media manager can write compelling copy that converts or write the emails that convert. Because when you get into the realm of like understanding the points in your marketing strategy where the copy is going to be very important, and that could be, sales funnels, that could be landing page. These are the points that I really encourage everyone to make those investments, right? You don't need to bring a copywriter on full time as a retainer person always in, but to bring in the heavy, the heavyweight champions like Linda when is needed for those points that are very important in your business, right? And oftentimes we come with this mentality of like, as long as we've got something, right? We've got copy. I think we understand in social media, right? We need good hooks in order for people to pay attention. But in anything that is related to sales, like that copy, we need to be really paying attention to what it is. So, so Linda, just as we're closing, tell everyone like where they can find you. I know you maybe want to put up that screen one more time of your website and where, like, which socials do you like to hang out on if anyone wants to reach out or ask any questions?
I am mostly on LinkedIn. So I have, oops, it didn't work. I'll just tell you what it is because I don't know what I did here, but yeah, at Linda at thecopyworks, worx.com is where you can reach me. Thecopyworks.com, of course, is my website. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active. I'm on there every day. Even if I don't post something myself, I am always on there interacting. I do post snippets of my podcast on YouTube and the full video. So that is probably where I'm second most active. I have an assistant who does post all of the clips on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm not really active on there as much as I am on LinkedIn. So your best chance is to get on LinkedIn with me.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Linda. This has been really great. Super helpful. If you guys have any more questions, we do have like one 1 minute or so, but if not, you can reach out to Linda, get her on into DMs on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Recording of
Thank you.
on the platform. Thank you.
Thanks.